Hey there! Thank you for joining me. I am an Army veteran, a retiree, and a federal government employee. And this channel is about the transition from military to civilian. If you're new here, please subscribe. Today I'm talking about 3 non-fiction inspirational books. Now let's get started. Reading books is an excellent way to stimulate your mind, to improve your vocabulary, and to also learn something new. Physical books might not work for everyone. Thankfully today we have electronic readers and we also have the audiobook option. Okay, now the first book I want to get into is Grant by Ron Chernow. This book, this is a big boy. It's about 900 pages. This is an excellent book. I have read Ron's previous books, and this, so far, is my favorite. The reader will follow Ulysses Grant from a boy in Ohio to a young man where his father is insisting that he goes to West Point, and he doesn't want to go, but ultimately he ends up going. Not only does he attend, he graduates, coming in at number 21 out of 39 overall. After West Point, as a newly commissioned lieutenant, he sees action in the Mexican-American War in the mid-1800s. And shortly after that, he's promoted to captain. Now, what we start to learn along the way is he develops a bit of a drinking habit. So much so that people start to take notice. And it is for that he is ultimately confronted and asked to resign his commission or potentially be court-martialed. That is astounding because this is the man who would ultimately be responsible for leading the victory in the Civil War, who would develop a deep and personal relationship with President Abraham Lincoln, and who would also go on to be a 4-star general. Then finally, as if that were not enough, he becomes the 18th United States president, and here he is being requested to resign his commission because of a discipline problem, a drinking problem. After he resigns his commission, he goes back home where his father has a store. And here we learn, as a reader, we learn that he's not very good when it comes to business in general. In fact, he's horrible at it. Now, the Civil War starts to kick off. He sees this as an opportunity to get back into the military, to do the one thing that he knew he was good at. And he literally starts to write these requests to governors of different states asking them for a commission, but not as a captain and not even as a major. He's asking for a higher rank. And ultimately he gets it. He comes back in as a lieutenant colonel. And there we see him win and even lose some battles as he quickly ascends to become a 4-star general. Ultimately, this is a story about an unlikely man who, despite setback after setback and misfortune and challenges, he's able to not only succeed and overcome those obstacles, he is able to thrive and prosper and leaves a lasting mark on this country's history. Next, we get to a book by Jordan Peterson, which is called 12 Rules for Life. This book is by a clinical psychologist named Jordan Peterson. And he feeds us valuable nuggets of information on how, by accepting responsibility, that we can ultimately better our quality of life by these 12 rules. On the surface, they seem like simple rules, like they would be common sense, shouldn't even matter. But they ultimately become profound. Each rule has its merit, but I'd like to talk to you about rule number 5 and rule number 9. Rule number 5 being, do not allow your kids to do anything that makes you dislike them. And the thought behind this rule is we love our kids. We should love our kids. And most of us do love our kids. So take that into consideration. We love them, and when they commit misbehavior or do something that they're not supposed to do, if it takes us to the point where we start to dislike them, then other people in society will definitely dislike them because other people in society, in our community, they don't love our kids the way that we do. So if we're not able to tolerate it as someone who loves them, then someone outside of the family, they're definitely not going to be able to tolerate it. And we want people to like our kids. We want this because they're able to provide opportunities, perhaps a job referral, perhaps a favor. We want external people from our family, we want them to like our kids to open up those doors of opportunity. So if your kid is upsetting you at the dinner table because they're slouching or food is hanging out of their mouth or they're acting disrespectful, and you find yourself saying, wow, little Timmy over here, I'm really starting to dislike this guy. Well, you can imagine what their teacher might feel, or their principal might feel, or their first employer might feel. And it is for that reason that we must not allow our kids to do anything that makes us dislike them. Now, obviously, this isn't a perfect rule, but it's something worth considering, and it's quite the interesting chapter. Now, number 9 is assume the person you're talking to knows something that you do not. And the idea behind this rule is oftentimes we interact with people and we're not actually listening to what they're saying. We're just waiting for our turn to talk. And this is a common error. Regardless of who you're talking to, I'm almost 40, so I could be talking to a 15-year-old from Michigan. Now, he could easily say a whole bunch of facts and stories about Michigan that I have no idea about. He knows things that I don't know. I don't have the slightest idea about Michigan. Or his hobby could be designing airplanes, the model airplanes. I don't know anything about that. So when we're encountering somebody and we enter into a dialogue, we need to consider that. Even if it's someone that we don't like, or we find, for whatever reason, this person's inferior, so you're not going to listen to them. That is a common mistake, and it's something that we should all try and strive to develop the act of listening and truly listening to a person and not just waiting for our turn to talk. Now we have the final book, which is A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. This is the shortest book out of all of them. This is about 200 pages. You probably can knock this out during a weekend. In this book, we're teleported into the grim reality of a World War II concentration camp. And the author is actually a doctor, and he's Jewish, and he's sharing his experiences. And it largely ties into the human spirit on what we're able to tolerate as human beings in the worst of situations. He actually spent a total of about 3 years, and he moved from different concentration camps. And he captures different reactions the prisoners were having, from shock to apathy and even disillusionment. And as you read through the pages of the book, you cannot help but to empathize with some of these prisoners, as they are overworked, they are underfed, and they are fearful for their lives on a daily basis. A lot of these prisoners are only given 1 or 2 pieces of bread, and they have watered down soup that they're supposed to eat. By far, it's not enough nutrition, it's not enough nourishment, and it's really brutal conditions. For the author, during this experience, there was no more race or religion or separating people by political beliefs. There were simply 2 categories. One was decent and the other was indecent. So when he met a prison guard or a fellow prisoner, you were either a decent person or you were an indecent person. And it was as simple as that at that time. And this book made me realize that there are times where it seems like everything is falling apart. You have horrible experience after horrible. You're thinking, I don't have any luck whatsoever. I'm in a very misfortunate position. Maybe you didn't get that promotion. Maybe your relationship fell through. Maybe you're struggling financially. Whatever the misfortune is, we have to understand that the human spirit and the human beings are able to overcome, not simply endure, but overcome these situations of despair and pain. And that the human being is truly a remarkable and resilient creature. As you make your way through the book and you finally get to the last chapter and you close it and put it away, you feel a breath of new life that reinvigorates you, and you leave feeling truly inspired. Well, that wraps up the 3 inspirational nonfiction books. If you would like to check them out, I left a link for each one of them in the description below. Each one of these books left a positive impact on me and have truly inspired me. If you have any favorite books, please leave those in the comments below. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.